It is an amazing phenomenon. Restore a stable currency, and suddenly a little glimmer of hope, a little glimmer of stability of society returns.
Well, they are doing some minor work in the currencies, such as the rand and the dollar. But the real force has been gold. And, everybody's running around with their scales. And if you want to do business, most everybody only will accept gold. So that's where that is all headed. It's not going to solve the problem because government is still in place. And a very brutal government that it is.
And that's the government that we installed and we've kept in power. This is what the American people don't know. Your tax dollars at work destroying, of course, the hope and future of the people there. Zimbabwe used to be Rhodesia, used to be a first world nation, used to have a lifespan of the average person of 64, 65. Now we've cut the lifespan in half. It's wonderful what Americans do with their efforts at, it's just simply a little scientific experiment. And of course, this is what happens when you destroy the stability of a currency. And we're going that way. There's no way they can put out all this money without destroying the value of our currency. And I don't think there's one person, in 100,000 in America who realize the implications of what's going to happen when they do destroy the value of our currency.
Well, the same thing will happen in America as will happen all over the world. Everybody's going to get this one. And Zimbabwe and Weimar are perfect examples of where we're headed. And as you know, I lived in Rhodesia for 3 years.
Right. I understand you even knew Mugabe.
Yes, I did. I used to talk to him fairly frequently when he was in jail because I would have to pass the jail going to and from my company that I owned. And I happened to meet him because I went in and got a dog from my son. They didn't use the female Alsatians for guard duty. They only used the males. And so they had females that they wanted to place, so to speak, at homes. And so anyway, that's how I happened to meet him, because he was in there, and he introduced himself to me. And so over a couple of years, I probably talked to him 20 or 30 times. And
what years were you in Rhodesia?
From January of 1970 to April of 1973.
Well, you left just about the time we got over there. We got over there in 74. We were there 74 to 77 in South Africa. Of course, my son visited Rhodesia, but it was a wonderful, wonderful country. Our telephone number here.
Just beautiful.
Yeah, 1-888-24-LIBERTY. 1-888-24-LIBERTY or 464-8295, and they took a prosperous country and they turned it into just a basket case. American foreign policy at work, Henry Kissinger. And of course, Henry Kissinger's directing everything that's going on today. People don't understand that, but apparently General Jones, I'm sure you've read that quotation from General James Jones, the director of the National Security Council, about how Henry Kissinger's directing foreign policy in the Obama administration. Did you see that, Bob?
Yes, I did. And, these are the things that happen behind the scenes that people never see nor hear about. And again, that's why your program is so important, getting this word out to the public, because they would never know otherwise.
Our telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, or 464-8295 if you have a question for Bob. Well, we're living in very difficult times. So if you'd like to talk to Bob, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 464-8295. But if you're one of those people who's just hanging in the stock market, waiting for your stock to come back again because you don't want to be psyched out, well, you better stop and think again about what's going on, because nothing as it appears to be. Well, let's go to Kent, who's calling us from West Virginia. Hi, Kent. How are you doing?
Hi, Dr. Stan.
Do you have a question for our guest?
Yeah, I've been puzzled a long time about these, and I finally heard a guy named Frank Partnoy on Terry Gross's Fresh Air program, and he described something that really amazed me. He said that these derivatives are just like bets that say a package of debts will go bad, and that if you had a package of debt, say for $100 million, and that they wouldn't place just one bet, they could take 100 bets on that one package of $100 million debt, and that these were not listed on the balance sheet, and they were just like notations on, you know, at the bottom of the balance sheet.
All right, let's get.
That sounds amazing to me.
Bob, do you have any comment at all on what Kent was saying?
Well, it's true. And they were holding these collateralized debt obligations and SIVs, as they were called, off balance sheet. And I know that's incredible, but that's what they were doing, and they're still doing it. And, you know, nobody seems to want to talk about it.
Remember, Chris, AIG was really, all this money was funneled to, I think, $30 or $45 billion of your tax money. They funneled to these banks, Deutsche Bank, J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, for these derivative contracts. They're simply uninsured bets, uninsured the insurance policies is basically what they are. But they're somewhere in the neighborhood of, what do you think, Bob, is 700 trillion or a quadrillion or quadrillion and a half of these out there? This is what's going to bring down the world economic system. How much do you think there is out there in that we're going to be on the hook for? I mean, we're on the hook for everything going on today. But they're not telling the American people that it's going to cost us another $500 billion or $1 trillion to bail out AIG because they're too big to fall. The truth of the matter is they're too big to keep up. Anything else you want to say, Kent or Bob?
Well, I was just wondering, since they're off the balance sheet, I mean, was there any cash changed hands for these? I mean, couldn't they just wipe them off and just pretend they didn't exist? I mean, or do we just have to pay hard money for something that's just off the balance sheet? I mean, that just seems like a scam of all time.
But they're not paying it. You're paying it, ladies. You're paying it. You're paying it. Bob, what are your thoughts?
Well, even though it's off balance sheet, it still has to be written off someday. It has to be brought back on the balance sheet. It can't stay there indefinitely. And so something eventually has to happen, and that's why the American taxpayer via the government is doing what they're doing to bail these companies out.
And that's why Henry Paulson...
There's no end to it. I mean, it doesn't matter what the derivative figure is, whether it's 600 trillion or 1.25 quadrillion. The point is, it's unpayable.
And of course, what people really must understand is that Henry Paulson, Council on Foreign Relations, Bilderbergers gave up a job paying him $40 million a year to become Secretary of the Treasury, and so he could funnel money back to Goldman Sachs, at least $12.5 billion, but it did just go to Goldman Sachs. It went to all of his other buddies who are all part of the same little elitist club. But you're not going to hear that here on the regular channels. Our guest is Bob Chapman. We'll be back here in just a moment to wrap up the program. Well, let's go to Harvey, who's calling us from Southern Florida. Harvey, do you have a question for our guest?
Yes, I do, Dr. Stan. Hello, Bob. Hello, Dr. Stan. Yes, I'd like to ask him, they're going to take these toxic assets from the banks, and they're going to get investors to invest in them with the government's money. I mean, if these things were worth anything, why wouldn't the banks just keep them if they were worth anything at all? What exactly are those things, Bob?
Well, they're bonds which contain, in one hand, mortgages or pieces of mortgages. And I won't go into the details, but they chop mortgages up and put some here and some there. And so that's what's in there. And there's another group called ABS, which is asset-backed securities, which have car loans, credit cards, mobile home loans, motorcycles,
student
that
loans,
sort of thing.
Right.
And what they're doing is the Fed is taking in this paper, and I don't know what they're paying them, but they've been paying 80 cents in the dollar. And the reason they're doing that is it's worth 20 cents in the dollar. So if they buy from the lender, we'll say banks, the paper at 80 cents or 60 cents or 50 cents, it doesn't make any difference. The taxpayer, the American government, is going to hold that paper to maturity, supposedly is going to get their money back or make some money, when in fact, as far as I'm concerned, that's impossible.